That's good. So I was a machine gunner.
I drafted like as a normal soldier, and then after 8 months, when I finished my training, I went to commander's course.
I was in the Air Force, and basically in the Air Force I did security.
So I drafted to the Army in 2013 at the end of the year to Mikveh Elon, and then I went to Shirion, the Armored Corps, shortly after.
And I was just in a regular infantry unit, like a combat scenario. My role was always to be in the front. I would it's called Putchim השטח, like opening the field, kind of. And yeah, I was always first in, last out, kind of.
I was a year commander, and then I was promoted to be a sergeant. The difference is like smaller groups. Like I was first a commander of 15 soldiers, and then I was promoted to like 45.
Doing siren, which is like patrols of the base. We did it a couple times a day. We'd have like also some sirens would go off when there would be an emergency or like someone would touch the gate around the base. So we'd go in at seal like around the base to make sure no one or nothing was there.
14. And in 2015 and 2016 during the terror wave, I spent the majority of that time in Hebron, which was a terror hub.
What makes someone a lone soldier?
You can be from outside, like American, with no parents here in Israel and no family. They get financial aid, they get maybe housing.
When I was around 20, I experienced, kind of some anti-Semitism firsthand and remarks about Israel and that. And I had never come here, and I was always very curious to what was going on here, because you see one thing on the media, but then you hear other things from people who have come here. So I decided the best way to really understand what was going on was to come here and be in the army. I was very lucky. I had a peaceful service. I didn't have to see any war or anything like that. Like it can be daunting, I guess, being alone in a country and then trying to organize things. And I remember I had to organize my bed once, like I just moved to a new apartment and I had to make sure that there was a bed to sleep on, and my commanders wouldn't let me leave, and the person was trying to bring me a bed and they didn't really care. To them it was like an excuse for somebody to leave base. And, maybe the Army didn't really, not necessarily Army, but my commanders or officers, they didn't really understand that. So that was kind of hard for me. There were times where I definitely felt alone on that aspect. Because they get that a lot. They get people trying to, leave base all the time. And so I guess there's not really an understanding of, what it's like to be a lone soldier.
In the Army, especially for lone soldiers, not even Israelis, like for lone soldiers, it's very rough. A lot of us don't have family here, a lot of us don't have connections here, a lot of us don't have the necessities that we need. I had issues with my stomach the past 4 years. Once I got to combat, in the Air Force it wasn't extreme, it wasn't really a problem. It was in combat when I wasn't sleeping properly, when I was always on my feet, when I was in hard training, it's when it started to act up more. And I was going to the doctor more, I was in the hospital more, I was losing weight, I didn't want to eat much, it changed my mood, it made me upset, I was crying literally for 7 months straight, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with my stomach, and I didn't know what to do, and they told me it was mental health issues, and it was just I didn't feel listened to. And being in this unit was my dream, but it was hard for me to live my dream while I was also living something else, and if I couldn't bring my body with me, then there's no point.
Most of the lone soldiers just get culture shock. So they are more sensible. They don't speak the language, they get very frustrated because they want to express themselves in an environment which is very hostile, because the army is very intense. You don't do nothing outside the army that you actually doing in the army. If it's carrying a gun, shooting a gun, it's for regular people. So from people that came abroad, which never saw somebody with a gun walking around, that's the main issue. The second part is the economical. Not everybody has support. Most of them don't have because they are far from home, they don't know how to. The third thing that it's very problematic is actually doing stuff that you've never seen before. Sleep in the cold, sleeping outside. A lot of people have never slept outside their house, being far away from home, sleeping with like another, I don't know, 10, maybe 20 people even in a room. You're lacking of privacy. That's something that might trigger some things in all of us, but lone soldiers are more sensible than everybody else.
I was made fun of a lot. People took my things without me knowing. People were very rude to me, and it was really hard to get along with them, and I never really did because they didn't want me. And then when I would try and speak, I would get yelled at because they didn't understand what I was saying, or because the language was hard for me. I was yelled at for speaking English at one other girl. My commando, she once told me, like, Nahama, just get over your depression, just get over it. And I was like, how am I supposed to just get up and get over it? Just you're a soldier, get over it. And that's not how mental health should be. And they wouldn't allow me to leave, even though like mentally I was dying and I wasn't getting help. So basically, just especially I see in combat, it's a lot of the same thing. It's a lot of get over it. It's a lot of you chose to be here, so this is on you. They just think you're making it up. They think that you're being over-exaggerating. They think that you just don't fit in. They think that it's your fault, and it isn't.
I remember I had my sergeant look at me once, and maybe he was overtired or he was angry, I don't know, but he looked at me and he asked me one day, he's like, why are you even here? Why would you come? Like, we don't need lone soldiers anymore. We don't need you. And I was kind of taken back by that because, I definitely didn't volunteer for glory or for, the recognition. I wanted to help out. I wanted to, they're Jewish and they have no right, like they have to serve. And so am I, so why not, right? So there's definitely like a stigma in the army about lone soldiers, I think. So there's definitely like I don't want to say misunderstanding, but like a lack of acknowledgement to what lone soldiers actually go through.
I have a few friends. They really had like a drive to come to the army. They really wanted to succeed. They really wanted to do everything they could to be bigger than themselves. And then when they came in, they were okay in the beginning. And then once you go to your unit, like you never know who you're going to be with. And also Israelis, as amazing as they are, they're children when they're drafting. You're 18, 19, you're still a child. And my friends are drafting at ages like 20, 21. So the age difference definitely was an issue, as well as just some people can be very cruel. And I had multiple friends, 3 of them from my own personal unit, who drafted before me, all say the same thing, how like these people were disgusting to them and how they would literally shove them on the floor and say, go back to your home country, we don't want you here. Commanders would scream at them, tell them they're not worth it, tell them they're not good enough. Sometimes being in the army, like as amazing as it looks on social media and as amazing as it is to serve, it's the people that you're with that really make it or break it.
I think there is a lot of like taboo maybe with mental health in the army. Army is not easy. Not everybody takes the same. Not everybody is capable of going to the army. And maybe not everybody should go to the army because they actually can't. But mental health is a big issue in the army.
So we have, in every unit, there's something called mashakitash, which is like a social worker kind of, and she's there to try and, make life easier for you. But there's only so much she can do.
There's a job in the army to be like a social worker, which are like 18, 19-year-old.
At the end of the day, if the officers don't want to listen to her, they don't have to. So that can, make it kind of crummy. But at the same time, she's got, 120 other soldiers that she's looking after, so it's not really, there's only so much she can do, right?
Three of my friends, they all left the army early, genuinely because of mental health. Like, 2 of them had 4 months left, one of them had, I think, a year or something left, I don't even know. And they all left because they were going to kill themselves. Seeing my friends go through that and then me personally also going through it it's horrible to see. Like, these people that were so happy with their lives in the beginning and happy to draft and had like so much excitement to be part of something, and then it gets ruined at the end because of how the people they were with were towards them. The army also didn't give a lot of my friends or me the help that we needed.
there's like a whole like cycle to go through to just get to a mental health check. So the main issue is that there's not a lot of people that are actually working in the mental health environment in the army. It's very tough because when you have just one for 3,000 people, actually there's a lot of people who actually need it and won't go because they don't want to waste their time. And going to the Kaban, which is the head of the mental health, it's a long process. It will take maybe weeks to even get like an appointment because there's so many people that need. So you first try to like solve it on your own terms. Like with the commander, maybe she can help you. If it's get like something like routine, when you see that the soldier, okay, that soldier has a problem that I cannot fix, so you actually go and make an appointment, and they will tell you, okay, we'll let you know when you have, and that's another problem because you have to pass so many hierarchies because I have to tell to my commander, and my commander goes to his commander. It's like it's hierarchy.
And in the army, they have something called a kaban. They have them in every unit, and a lot of the time they just aren't helpful and they don't do their job. Especially in my unit, my kaban did not do her job. And it got to the point that I told her, listen, like, I'm not comfortable holding my gun, I'm not comfortable like going out to do guard duty, I'm not comfortable sleeping on this base, I'm not comfortable, I feel overwhelmed. She looked at me dead in the face and she said, Chama, I can't help you with that. If you want to kill yourself, call your commander and she'll deal with it. And I'm like, when I heard that, it made me think like, when I heard a grown woman, well, when I heard a grown woman who like has the power and has the authority to help say to me that basically my life isn't worth it for her to deal with and it's for someone else, it made me realize, wow, like they really don't understand what lone soldiers deal with and how you can be okay but you still need help. And this is why it's sometimes embarrassing for lone soldiers to reach out.
She was from Florida. She was actually in the commander's course. She was amazing. We didn't even saw anything. She was my soldier for like 8 months. During the whole training, I was her sergeant. She was just like a normal lone soldier. Like she had like a lot of friends. She was very popular in our like machlaka. She even saw her friends, like her best friends, 3 days before. And the night of it, she just didn't. There's something that called shatash. When you have like 1 hour free, you can like shower, you can call your family, everybody doing like, it's your free hour of the day. And afterwards you go to sleep. So after the shatash finished, she never came to say to the commander that the hour is finished, and then she is allowed to go to sleep. The search began and they found her like 4 hours later with helicopters, like 1 kilometer from the base, and she just shot herself. Yeah. The credibility is also a problem because not everybody actually believes they have a problem. That's when people that actually need the help fall in between the chairs.
So I spent like 4 months on the border of Gaza. The first like 2 or 3 weeks was like a lot of rockets, like every day, about 1,000 rockets. So we were spending like every minute inside a bomb shelter. There's like 60 of us crammed into this one little space. And it was just like, I remember I would wake up at night hearing explosions and like, you know, feel kind of shocked and then roll over and go back to sleep. But then I remember there was one night where we just we kind of got tired of sleeping on the floor. So we said, you know what, screw it, let's go back to our room, like what's the worst that can happen? And I remember walking to my room, and where we were so close to the border that like you hear the explosions before the sirens or any of the warnings go off. So I remember we're walking back to the room, and I had this experience where like I heard an explosion over my head, and it felt like it was like really over my head, like really close to me. And me and my friend, we both kind of just like jumped to the ground, and I kept my head on the ground, and like I kept hearing explosions, and I had no idea where they were, but like I could hear and feel that they were above me. And the next thing I knew, my friend like grabbed me and he pulled me up. And
one of my friends was rammed to death by a vehicle, 2 were stabbed in the neck and survived. 1 was shot in the head. That went exactly how you'd expect.
This says an 18-year-old from Sharon, Massachusetts, has been killed in an attack in the West Bank.
On top of all the riots and other things, after the army, I kind of fell apart. It takes a toll on you.
I think that kind of lasted with me for a long time, like even now. You know, if I fall asleep on the couch or if I fall asleep in my bedroom, somebody goes to wake me up. When I wake up, I'm like I wake up very intensely. I remember I was sitting, after I finished the army in Toronto, I was sitting with some friends for Victoria May weekend, which, you know, people light fireworks and things like that. And I remember sitting there, and all of a sudden a firework goes off, and I just, like, I lost my cool. Like, I don't know, I thought there were rockets or something. And, you know, I'm in Canada, there's no way there's rockets or anything coming, but, then, you know, after a couple minutes I calmed down, I started breathing. So one of the soldiers that, I guess there was, when the rockets were all coming, one of my friends from the army was in the car with they were doing a patrol, and a rocket hit his car and he died. And he was one of my snipers. Like, we were in a unit together, him and I, and so like that, like the whole thing's kind of affected me differently. I was more angry in that time period, I remember. Like, I remember the bombs would go off, and we had a couple that like kind of landed in, not landed, but like came close to Herzliya. Like, it would definitely shake me up, but I remember being, like, I was more angry than anything. I remember calling the army, like, asking if I could go to reserves and this and that.
I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Still not perfect. I still have somatic flashbacks, which can be a bit jarring, and they're rather embarrassing to have in public. So I generally stay in my room until nighttime, where I go out and I go on walks and just sort of breathe.
But when you have some trigger in the army that happened in the army, I don't know, somebody shot, like, and you really got scared. Lone soldiers have these, they're more susceptible to this thing because they never grew with it. Israelis know that maybe my brother was in the army, maybe my sister was in the army, so they already like grew into this environment. So after the army, after they're released, most of the PTSD is actually on lone soldiers. Very, very, very difficult for them to be acknowledged, to be recognized as a PTSD. But the people who are not actually PTSD in the eyes of the IDF, they just like go through life without any help. Maybe then they don't even have like financial aid from their parents or their family, and just like they are alone. Just in one day you get released, and like they say to you, bye-bye, good luck, you're not useful anymore, bye-bye. And then what happened to the lone soldier, for example, they actually realize that they don't have nothing because their family's abroad. Now they don't have this environment that protects them, and they know that they can come back every time. They just are actually alone. They have to take care of themselves. Maybe they don't have even the skills to maybe find a job or, I don't know, housing. They actually have to find so many things that they are not ready for it.
I was lucky. When I finished, I went right home to Canada, and I just kind of recuperated with my family and friends. I was there for about 6 months. But when I came back, I don't know, because The army, they give to lone soldiers who finish the army, they give them like 12,000 shekels their first year for rent assistance. And I guess I did work with a charity organization called Achim Lechaim. It's like Brothers for Life. And they work a lot with veterans and people with PTSD here in Israel. I guess like the fact that there's so many, and they're not the only one, there's tons of organizations in this country that help deal with people with that stuff. I guess that does kind of show that, you know, the army doesn't really have the capabilities to deal with it all by themselves. Also, you know, there's so many soldiers and there's barely enough money in the army as is, so.
There's two different places for lone soldiers. There's the base from the Lone Soldier Center, which is like on Yafo. I know the base is 2 years old, and the LSC has been around for a very long time. The base helps lone soldiers and Bnot Shirut, like lone volunteers who come to serve Israel in a different way. Like there's the army and then there's national service. So the base helps them, and the LSC is specifically for lone soldiers. I received a text one day from one of the managers being like, hey, like we have a therapist if anyone's interested, like on a group chat. And without thinking, I randomly was like, hey, I want to do it. And I was in this state that I needed it, but I also didn't realize I was doing it until like I was calling her. So it was kind of my body doing it before my mind was doing it. And I called her, I spoke to her, I met with her, and just talking to her for one session really helped me a lot. Government gives other things, but when it comes to mental health, it's like, no, figure out yourself. So what I did was I contacted Nefesh B'Nefesh, and they paid for my first 10 sessions with my therapist for free. So that helps me, and like I have a few friends that also see her, and it helps a ton because you're not paying like rent to go seek assistance. You're paying like enough to go and receive help, and it's really thanks to the base that like I'm still here, and that I can see someone, and that I can get help, and that I can carry on in my life post-army while still receiving assistance.
I self-medicate, kind of, just smoke here or there, help me fall asleep, but that's about it.
I spend my time writing, but I'm writing a book series about a bunch of different veterans with true stories of what happened to them. And that's why I started school. I wanted to write for a living.
First of all, you have to put more psychologists into the army. Actually, the exams, you do exams before you draft in the army, so mental health shouldn't be like a side part of the exam. It should actually be the main. Are you actually capable of serving in the army, like mentally? So I think making it easier, the bureaucracy, giving some slack to lone soldiers, it will be maybe a better way to change something.
I really think what they should do is they should have more lone soldiers become in higher power in the army, become higher officers, become people that can help. The army itself needs more assistance and needs more understanding and needs more classes or needs more experience regarding mental health. Everyone has to be on the same page and to have a successful army. And as successful as IDF is, it could definitely be better. And they know this, they understand this, they appreciate people's concern, but they're just not doing enough.
Definitely still a lack of acknowledgement. One thing I could say is just like, when officers or commanders are going through their training, they need to be taught about lone soldiers, and I don't think they are. Like, just from my experience, I felt like a lot of the times my commanders thought I was lying to get off base, and that was the most frustrating. Why would I join the army? Why would I come from Canada, join the army, and just lie to get off base? It makes no sense. So.
For sure. Okay, well, that's kind of it.
That's it?
Yeah.
No more questions?
Yeah.